Welcome to AR Management 101. Now, if your full-time position is AR Management, you'll receive a series of training sessions instructing you on how to add and delete accounts, edit the account information, take payments, and run statements, and so on. And there's also a series of videos in this collection that go through each page of the AR Management screens and each and every field, showing you what they do and how they might benefit you. This video is simply a quick summary of the fields that we suggest that you require, or those that are most used by our customers and how they might benefit you. I'm going to start by going into the AR Management screens by clicking on the F key, and then number 3, Display Alter Accounts. So all of these buttons are available to access either through this menu here, or once you're into the account, you can click on the letters that you find on the left-hand side of each of the descriptions and go straight to that page. There's also a drop-down menu that gives you these same descriptions so you know what the letters represent. I'm going to go into letter A, and I'm going to type in an account number. Press my Enter key. Now, as I said, this is a quick summary of the fields that we suggest that you populate. You don't necessarily need to populate all of these, and there are many, many more that you might want to use for your purposes, but these are those that if we had a sheet of paper and we were going to highlight which fields we really suggest that you populate, these would be them. So when I'm dealing with the general information about my account, I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner. I want the name of the business. Now this is the sold to corporate name, unless you are using master account logic, which if you are, that information is in another video, or SBC can help you set up master account logic. But this is going to be the name that shows up on the invoice that goes to your major corporate office for your customer. Ship to addresses are located in a different menu. So this is going to be the name of the guy who gets the bill for all of the purchases that are going on. Address, here's their billing address, and if there's a second address line or a suite number, you would put that here. City, state, zip, and country. This is the corporate office's main phone number, their main fax number, and then their cell number can be used for any telephone number that you want to grab. Now when I keep saying corporate, I'm meaning that this guy is probably going to be getting the statement for any of the ship to addresses that make any purchases. Now, as I mentioned, master account number has to do with a scenario where you have multiple accounts that perhaps have different price matrices and pricing scenarios and payment types, and then one main corporate office receives the statement. So for each account that you have in your system, there's going to be a series of pages here. My base sell price. My base sell price is my worst case scenario pricing for this customer. If you leave this field blank, they're going to be charged list. So in our system, there is tons of pricing scenarios that you can set up. You can set up groups of customers to get discounts on groups of parts, down to a single customer receiving a special price on a particular part number. So that kind of logic is all over the system here. This field is saying that if there's no special pricing set up for this customer, his default price for those items will come back to this base sell price. As I said, if you leave it blank, he's going to get charged your list price. This DLR field letters are coming from my inventory record, so I would want to match what's in my inventory. If I have jobber price and dealer price and stocking dealer, there's going to be a 3-character code for each of those. If I have things more like an A refinisher or things like that, those codes will be used here as well. So you're going to refer back to your inventory to get these field letters. As I mentioned, I'm going to skip a bunch of fields because they're not necessarily required. You may use them, and there is another video that can go through what these are used for. I'm just going to go through those fields that are most often used. So buying group number 1, 2, National Buying Group 1 and 2 and Price Matrix Group have to do with those special pricing scenarios that I was discussing. These are group codes that come from a different page in the system where you set up this customer to be part of a buying group or of a price matrix group with the intention that you have a word here that represents that group, and you have a lot of customers who take advantage of a single type of discount. So you set up a group, so you only need to maintain it in one place. There are other areas in the system that allow us to do this per customer, so you have this customer having his own specific pricing, but that's where your group names would go. If you have a multi-store system and customers are purchasing online from you, or you have a call center or something along those lines, your store number field may be populated with their home store. So although your customers may be able to purchase from any of the stores in your corporation, this is going to be their home store, the one that they would typically be delivered to from, or the one that they would go and pick up merchandise from. Payment type. Your payment type refers back to a page T1D. That's your menu path, T1D. Your listing of payment types is the payment types that you accept at point of sale: house charge, cash, Visa, check, and so on. The payment types that go into this field are typically only two options. The first is a C, that's a house charge. That means that this guy has the opportunity to put his items on a house charge, and then he'll receive a statement at the end of the month for all of those charges. The other option that you would put here is a $sign, and that means he's going to pay cash. Now, when I speak about cash, I mean immediate payment: cash, check, credit card, discount card, debit card, any kind of immediate payment for that invoice. So it's not being held onto a statement. There are other pay types that you may have set up, like a COD. There are also payment types that you can set up that can either be automatically populated into this field depending on their balance, or that you can come in and manually enter that allow you to put an account on hold if they're overdue. Those payment types are customizable, and so it could be any code. So I'm not going to list any of those here, but you do have the opportunity to put a customer on hold, and if you were to do that, that code would go into this field here. Open item. So if you have a customer who's open item, and by open item I mean he pays by invoice, you're going to set this field to a yes. Now, the only time that you can actually come into this field and type in a Y is if this is a brand new account, or he has absolutely no balance and hasn't had one for a while, and you've run a statement reset already for him. There is a conversion in another menu in the system for you to convert a customer who currently has a balance to open item if you need to do that. If you leave this field blank, or you put a no into that field, that means that this customer is considered balance forward. Balance forward works the same way that your credit card does. So you go out and you buy gas and groceries and a movie, and you get a bill for $100. If at the end of the following month you haven't paid off that complete $100, you're going to get a line item on your credit card statement that says your previous balance is, and then it's going to add any new line items to that. So if you have a customer who pays you $100, regardless of the balance on their account, you want to set them as a balance forward. Balance forward accounts have a lot less maintenance than open item accounts. If you have a customer who is constantly sending you a check with reference numbers on the bottom, I'm paying off ticket number 1 and ticket number 16 and ticket number 23, you want to set them as open items so that you can always report to them what tickets that they have not paid off yet. As I mentioned, open item is more maintenance than balance forward, so if you have a guy who just sends you a random amount of money regardless of his statement balance, make him a balance forward. Quantity pricing. I would suggest that you always populate this field with a Y. The reason is that quantity pricing, if this is turned on, it allows them to take advantage of quantity pricing scenarios. If you set up an account and then 6 months from now go in and set up quantity pricing, if this field is not a yes, this customer doesn't get to take advantage of that. So to avoid problems in the future, set that up with a yes, and then this customer is applicable for quantity pricing whenever you decide to set those up. cancel or back order. This field is populated with either a C for cancel or a B for back order. This means, do you allow this customer to back order from you if you don't have the materials for him? So if you leave the field a blank, it's going to assume that you want to cancel any back ordered items for this customer. Alpha search name. What word do you want to use to find this customer? Notice that the business name is Jethro Tull Transmissions. If I use the owner's last name or a nickname or something like that to find this customer when I'm in point of sale, that's the information that you want to put in this alpha search name field. If you're converting from another system, we always populate this with the business name unless we're provided an alpha search name. But you can always come in and change this information at any time. The web password field must be populated if this customer is trying to order from you online or access ePart or eOffice or eDelivery. So you want to make sure that this information is populated, otherwise he'll get an error when he's trying to access the website. So if that field is not being used, or if you're not using any kind of web processing, you can use that field for just about anything that you would like. Purchase order number. In the case that your customer has the same purchase order number every time they create a ticket with you, you can just type in that number and then that will show up on their invoices in point of sale. If you require a purchase order number from them but you don't know what it is until the ticket's created, you're going to populate that field with a Y, and then it's going to require a purchase order number at point of sale before you finish the invoice. This box of information allows you to block information from showing up on your invoices. Now, it works a little bit backwards, so you want to make sure that you read the box appropriately. This is a suppress option, meaning, do I want to suppress the prices on my invoice print? If I do, I say yes, I want to suppress them. So make sure that you're reading this the correct direction. If you choose to suppress information, you can do it account by account here, or we can stuff the information into the field if you perhaps would like to suppress list price for every single customer. So this is something that either you can do on the fly or we can teach you how to stuff the information if you don't know how to do that already. And last, your file update flags. 20 years ago, space on computers was very limited, so you wanted to make sure that you didn't collect a bunch of information that you don't need or it would take up space and slow down your machine. Since you can now go to Walmart and buy a 5 terabyte drive for like $50, this is not so much an issue anymore, but we still have some of this kind of programming into the system that allows you to determine what files are updated when a ticket is finalized at point of sale. My suggestion is that you always make sure that on each account your payment history is set to a Y, your part tracking by account is set as a Y, and your THF transaction history is set to a Y. That means that when this customer creates a ticket, it's going to update part tracking, so it's going to track my sales by item for this account. It's going to update my transaction history, which is just a listing of all of the tickets that this customer has ever bought from me. And payment history, if they make any payments, I'm going to track that information as well. So I would suggest that you use those as a default. Make sure that they're always set to Y so that you're tracking information for your customers appropriately. When I'm done filling in these fields or editing these fields, if I hit my Enter key or my Home key, I'm going to get to the bottom of my screen and I have a series of buttons that I can use to either update information or move around the page. So one of them is my Update button. I'm going to click on Update, and that's going to record any changes that I have made. You want to make sure that you do that before you move to another record. To move around the records, I'm going to use the buttons in the lower left-hand corner, F1 and F2, or F3 and F4 if I'm looking for specific criteria. Now, one of the nice things about point of sale is that, about accounting, is that you have the ability to click on the description of a field and get a box that helps you determine what the purpose of that field is. So if you have a question or if you'd like to set up a field, the first place that you want to start is to click on the description and read what the description tells you. Now, if you put information into that field and it's not working for you, you're going to want to call SBC because perhaps there might be some background flags that we need to turn on so the fields function for you. If the description still isn't helping you with what you need to do, give us a call and we can help you out with any of those. I'm going to click on the home to return, and that's going to pop me back to my accounting screen. In the upper left-hand corner, there's a button that says Page. If you click on that, you're going to see that listing of all of the pages within your AR. This is a listing of all of the pages per customer. So you have all of these pages available for every customer in your AR. You can access this information by clicking on Page and then clicking on the page up here. You can click on the letter over here on the right, or you can escape out and use the menu buttons. So you can access this information in a number of different ways. I'm going to go to the accounting page. The fields on this page that I want to populate, typically, are credit limit check. Do you want to check your credit limit amount? If you don't, leave this a blank. Then it's just one less thing you have to deal with. If you do, you're going to set that to a yes, and then enter your credit limit amount here. And it's going to continue to compare the current balance for your customer to what he's purchasing in the middle of the invoice. And it checks upon going into the invoice and upon leaving the invoice. So if you haven't exceeded your credit limit when you enter the ticket, but you enter items on the invoice and then exceed your credit limit, you're going to get a message at the end of the ticket that you've exceeded your credit limit. So this works on both ends. The aging history buckets are showing you what your aging is for this account. Now, in the upper right-hand corner, this account is an open item no. So my agings show like this, and my balance information shows like you see here. If I change to a different account, and this account is an open item yes, you're going to notice that some of my fields have changed. This is correct. You're not missing information. This is how this works if it's an open item versus a balance forward. So just be aware that you might see a couple of different fields depending on their open item status. I'm going to go back to the account that I was on, and you'll notice that this guy has a current balance. He's got no old aging history, but he has a current balance, and that's what you see in the lower left corner. In the center of your screen is this customer's history. What's their last statement amount and date, their last payment amount and date, their highest balance amount and date, so on. That information can be helpful to you, and you can report upon it if you'd like to. Invoice messages allow you, the AR manager, to discuss or to give messages to your clerks without you standing up and walking over and talking to them. So if you want to be alerted if a customer comes into the store, they owe you money, if you want to get a check before you start the invoice, you can write messages in this area, and it is going to pop up a button or a window in point of sale telling your clerks this information. This does not print on the invoice. It's simply a message for you to relay information to your clerks. The last information that you want to populate on this page is your tax information. Your tax codes are coming from your T1 B as in Bravo menu. So for most customers, it's T for taxed and E for exempt. For customers in New Orleans, you may have 100 tax codes depending on how many parishes that you sell to. These tax codes are set up as the default for this customer. Remember, if you have watched the Ship To video already, that Ship To tax codes override what you see on this accounting page. You want to make sure that on the right-hand side you are populating these tax codes, because if you don't, your clerks will be required to do so at point of sale, and they may enter the information incorrectly. So if this guy's taxed, on my system, I type in 2 T's. If he's exempt, I type in 2 E's. There's another video that will describe for you the difference between tax code 1 and tax code 2, but if 99% of the time they're selling all the same items, your tax situation is the same, you'll want your tax codes to be identical. One more note, if you have a tax-exempt customer, you're going to want to make sure that you type something into the tax-exempt number field, whether it's an X or a period or a legitimate tax code number. If you do not enter a tax exempt number information into this field, your clerks at point of sale are going to be required to do so. So just be aware of that. I am going to update this page, so I'm going to click on the update button, and that's going to save on this page. Now, one thing that I wanted to tell you while I'm here, if I were to hit the F1 button and go to my previous window, you'll see that my cursor pops up into the information. Well, maybe I don't want to edit these, I just want to take a look at them. If you click your home key so that you're down at the bottom of the screen and your cursor is blinking in your lower left corner, you'll notice that there's a button on the right here that says Alter, and it's in blue. If I click on that, it turns off my Alter, and then I can press my F1 and F2 keys, and I'm simply scrolling through my accounts. This works anywhere in the system. So if you're annoyed because you keep getting thrown up into the information and you don't want to actually edit that, turn off your Alter button, and it will let you scroll through the windows. Sales history. Quickly, sales history is a listing of the totals for your parts only. This does not include tax. It does not include freight. So for this customer, for example, in February, there was a sale for $40.79. The gross profit was $16.79. The percent profit was 41.2%. So this information is available for each customer for you, but this does not include tax or freight or labor, depending on how that's set up. Now you have two pages in your system. One is called transactions and one is called transaction history. The difference between the two is that transactions is what's going to show up on this customer's statement. If this is a balance forward customer, this is going to collect all of the information that's going to show up on his statement. Once you run the statement and the statement reset, it's going to wipe this entire page so that you can start collecting new data for this customer for their next statement. If this is an open item account, the information on this page is going to show you any tickets from this month. Once I run the statement reset, it's going to clear out any closed payments, any closed tickets, and then it's going to leave for me only those unapplied payments that I have or any open invoices, whether they've been partially paid or completely paid, it will show those. If I want to see a listing of this customer's history since the beginning of time, I go to the transaction history page. The pages look slightly different, but they have the same information, and you can actually access your invoices by clicking on this archive button if you wanted to pull up one of the invoices on your screen. But the transaction history, if you use your F3 and F4 buttons, will scroll you back to the beginning invoices for this customer since they started as a customer for you. I'm going to skip a couple of pages because I'm going to go over those in a different video. But price matrix, we were discussing discounting prices for customers. This price matrix is specific to this customer. Now keep in mind, if you set up a price matrix for a customer, or if you set up a special pricing by customer for a specific customer, you have to maintain those. So this is going to be more specific to the account, but it's more information to maintain. So when you're laying out how you're going to do your pricing for your customers, keep in mind, I can set up groups to apply to customers, but it's generic and it applies to a bunch of customers, or I can go into these pages and set up special pricing for this customer only. So this is one of the pages that you would set up personalized pricing. In this case, this guy is getting a discount on Wix parts. I could get a discount on Wix parts in a certain category. And in this case, he's getting retail minus 20%. There is another video that's going to show you how to set up price matrices. When I click on page, I'm going to scroll down the list and I'm going to go to my notepad page. So my notepad page is a big just area where I can keep track of information instead of me having to write it down on paper. So if you have communicated with the customer and they give you some information, you can add it to this notepad page, and that will stay in the system for as long as you deem the information appropriate or necessary. I'm going to click on the page button and go to my net sales. Remember, I could also just hit my I key on my keyboard to go to net sales. So this is a listing for each customer, what their current this year's total dollars, sales, returns, credit memos, defective returns, their total net, the cost of those items, what the gross profit is, and what the percent profit is. So this is this year, and this over here on last year. The ticket info at the bottom allows you to track things like their average ticket amount, their average number of items per ticket, their total pieces ordered, their total pieces shipped, and then their percent filled. Keep in mind, percent filled is not appropriate or not correct unless you actually tell the computer that the customer ordered 20 but you only delivered 15. So if you want the percent filled to be correct, you need to make sure that you're instructing your employees to track lost sales and to track any time when you can't supply the accurate number that the customer is looking for. Payment history. This is a list that's actually, this screen is in 2 columns. Here's the first one. Here's the second one, and this is a listing of all of the payments that they've made to you. So if you need to review things or you're trying to track whether they paid for something or not, you can come into here and track all of their payments. Transaction history we discussed, that's their history since the beginning of time. The last one I'm going to direct you to is the electronic data. This is the ability for you to keep track of all of the email addresses for your customer. And one thing down at the bottom here, you have a button that says extended view of V as in Victor. If you go to that field and you click on that button, it's going to give you a listing of opportunities to send all finalized invoices to this email address or all house charge tickets. So we have a program called the email server. It can be installed on your server machine. And if you use that, then every time you finalize an invoice, a copy of that invoice will be sent to any emails that are set up to receive those. You can always manually send an email once you have that program set up, but this allows it to automatically happen so you don't have to keep track of that. I'm going to press the escape key to get back out to my main menu. The reason I'm doing this is because there's one other window that I want to show you, and that's this accounts receivable inquiry. When you click on this, although the screen is ugly, it's really helpful. So as soon as this gets to the top of the list, it will be changed into the windows that you've been seeing before with the buttons. When you enter an account number here, it's going to show you the name, address, city, state, and zip, the contact, the email address, any codes that are helpful to you, the salesperson, and the sell price. On the right-hand side, it's going to show you the aging for this customer. This is the best place for you to go to if you're on the phone with a customer trying to get them to pay down a balance. So if you see at the bottom of the screen, this is a listing of all of your invoices here. And I have the ability to actually pull these up if I want to. I'm going to press the F4 key to scroll around. If I want to look at one of these invoices, I hold down my control key and hit an X as in X-ray. I can also click on the shift question mark for some help with this. And then if I hit the control X one more time, I'm actually going to go down to a different ticket. It's going to pop up the invoice for me. I can email this to the customer if they still owe me for it. I can print it. I can simply use it for reference. And then when I hit the escape key, it pops me back into the inquiry screen. So this is an excellent screen for you, the account manager, to get onto if you need to call someone and follow up with them as to why they're not paying their bills or they didn't pay a particular ticket. I'm going to press the home key and it's going to put me back at command. This screen, as soon as it becomes GUI, I'm assuming that there's going to be even more information available to you. So if you have a person who is the billing manager who's constantly calling and following up with customers, show them this X page and give them the opportunity to see all of that information in one place instead of having to jump around to different screens. If you have any questions at this point, please call SBC at 800-829-4722 or send us an email at sbctraining@autolog.com. As I said, there are a number of different videos that can elaborate on the information that I gave you today, but this was just a quick run through of everything that might be required on your system or that's good to know before you go into the accounting tables any deeper. Thank you so much for your time.